Welcome to the Coffee in the Barn. I'm Casey Bradley, President and founder of the Swine Group. If you are thinking about entering, changing, advancing, or reinventing your career in the animal science industry, we are here to help you succeed. In each episode, we will cover a variety of topics surrounding work, life, and professional development, leveraging my 20-plus years as a global leader within the livestock industry and my ever-growing professional network to interview other leading professionals. We couldn't do this without our sponsors, NutriQuest, IFF, and Continental Search. Reach out to us on our social media platforms or visit theswineGroup.com and subscribe now not to miss another episode.
Hello everyone, welcome to our Season 2 finale of Coffee in the Barn. My name is Andres and I'll be your host for this final episode. First, we would like to thank our sponsors NutriQuest, IFF, and Continental Search for being with us on this journey, our founder Dr. Casey Bradley, and you guys, the amazing audience who has followed us from the very beginning. Today we have a very special episode. It is a replay from one of our recorded webinars called Being Flexible in Your Career Path with Jessica Newberry of Virbac, which you can find on our YouTube channel, Animal Science Office Hours. But before we jump into the episode, don't forget to click the link in the show notes so you can subscribe to our email list and get our ebook, which will help you stand out among other professionals through a series of tips and advice to improve your networking, presentation, and speaking skills. Also, if you love the Swine Group's outreach and mission, please consider supporting the cause and buy us a coffee. The link will be in the show notes as well. I promise the money will keep funding our amazing outreach, our student externs, and new solutions for animal agriculture. And now, on with the episode.
Well, welcome everybody to our second webinar of our 2021-2022 Coffee and Careers webinar series. We're very glad that everybody could join us today. Before we get started, I'd like to go ahead and thank our sponsors for this year, IFF, NutriQuest, and Continental Search for their continued support. Then I would like to go ahead and introduce our speaker, who is Jessica Newberry with Virbac, and she's going to be speaking today on being flexible in your career path. Just a little bit of background on Jessica. So Jessica grew up on a farm in the Midwest and studied biochemistry at the University of Missouri before earning her Doctor of Veterinary Medicine degree from the University of Missouri in 2004. She also has a master's in agriculture economics from Purdue University and an MBA in food and agribusiness from the University of Illinois. In addition to private practice, Jessica has held roles in technical service, business unit director, and global marketing. Currently, she is senior technical service veterinarian, food producing animals with Virbac. She enjoys things outdoors, whether it be riding horses, hiking, or trout fishing. She resides in Missouri with her husband, 2 sons, and various animals, large and small. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and let Jessica take over.
Thanks, Marissa. So what we're going to talk about is my career map. So I am not where I thought I would be when I was a student or even early in my career. So I'm just going to tell you how I've gotten to where I am today, some of the decisions that went into making those changes. And then I'm going to kind of end with some advice, some things that I wish people would have told me when I was earlier in my career. And if they did, maybe I would have listened to those. So first of all, how did I get here? As Marissa indicated, I grew up on a farm in Northwest Missouri. We had dairy cattle until I was about 12 when milk prices were low, construction was doing better in our family, and we changed over to beef cattle. In fact, this is my grandpa in the picture. This was 5 years ago at the young age of 85. And you can see that he's bottom feeding an orphaned beef calf. In addition to cattle, I have had a passion for horses ever since I was young and have grown up showing horses, rodeoing, and still trail ride today. Somewhere between the cows and the horses, I also developed a passion for veterinary medicine. They tell me that since the age of 3 or 4, I said I wanted to be a vet, and I never strayed from that. So growing up, I made sure I had the grades I needed, spent time with local veterinarians in my community and neighboring communities so that I was prepared to go to vet school. Well, of course, you've got to start with college first, right? So I attended the University of Missouri. It was an in-state school that had a vet school. So that was great for me. I was funding my education on my own through loans and working. Mizzou was just a logical choice. And when I got there, I majored in biochemistry, which is a little odd since we're, mainly focusing on animal science students. But I had a professor tell me, Jumsey, you got to have a backup plan. I didn't have a backup plan. I was going to be a vet, but okay, fine. I'll go do biochemistry so that if this didn't work out, I could kind of go into research. So I was going along, studying hard, but I was also in the practice pen because I was still trying to run up and down the road, breakaway ropey. And it became pretty clear about halfway through my first semester, I couldn't do both. So I made the very difficult choice to stop rodeoing, made my rope and horse a broodmare, and really focus on my education. So for the next 3 years, I only took method science courses. I needed to have early entrance, paying for it myself, working 2 jobs, and thankfully it paid off. So I was accepted in the year 2000 to be a graduating class in the year 2004. And in the meantime, I had a long-term boyfriend. And so we decided between the summer of my husband graduating from law school and me starting vet school, we got married. So didn't have to worry about a roommate in school. That was kind of all settled. And we're going along and decided, you know what? It's hard to be a new parent as the first several years that you're out in practice as a veterinarian. So between my second and third year of vet school, we welcomed our first son. And that posed a whole nother set of challenges. So being a new mom, thankfully had a husband who was super supportive and really learned a lot about time management at that time. So in 2004, I graduated and Mizzou kind of said, hey, Jesse, would you be interested in doing a large animal internship? Oh my goodness, was I ever? However, they were only willing to pay me $18,000 a year. Graduating with $130,000 in student loan, having a family I needed to contribute to, obviously the math didn't make sense. So like many of my classmates, I entered into private practice and became an associate veterinarian in an equine and small animal practice. Learned a lot. I was able to practice really high-end medicine. There was a need for a bovine cow-calf practitioner in the area that the owner of the practice said, I don't want to do it, but Jesse, if you do, go do it. So that was great. But I was working 70 hours a week, on call a lot, and really just becoming burnt out. And I remember I was kicking a soccer ball around the yard with my 5-year-old. Back then, we wore the big pagers. The pager went off, and he looks up at me and he said, Mommy, don't go. And that was the moment that I needed to be able to say, it's okay to make a life change. And it just so happened I'd had a recruiter that was talking to me about an industry position at the time. So I went ahead and explored that opportunity. I had the contract signed and, everything was ready to go on a Friday afternoon. And boy, was I scared, 26 years old, having to go into a place that, I loved my clients and tell them that I was leading the practice. And so Monday morning, my boss comes in and first thing he says to me is, hey, Jesse, do you want to switch weekends? And I was like, to be on call. And I was like, hey, we need to talk. There's something I need to tell you. And so I let him know that I was leading the practice. And in the back of my mind, I knew his sister had terminal cancer, but it never occurred to me to ask him how his sister was before I dropped that bombshell. And boy, was it. His sister had unfortunately passed away that morning. I didn't know. And this was not the appropriate time to be letting him know that I was leaving. So as you can imagine, things really blew up. I was escorted from the practice that day. I didn't see any of my appointments that were set that day or the next few weeks. So I had a full month to sit at home before I started my new position. Understand that these things happen, sometimes at no fault of your own. It's just circumstances. But really, when you make changes, be prepared. Be prepared financially and be prepared emotionally. So thankfully, I started a month later as the technical services veterinarian for SIVA Bioimmune. So my job there was to support commercial vaccines for cattle and both commercial and autogenous vaccines for both bovine and swine. I had no clue what an autogenous vaccine was. I knew that you went out and you took a sample from a farm and you found a bacteria or a virus and they made a vaccine and sent it back out. And they were used when we didn't have commercial vaccine or the commercial vaccine didn't work. I had no idea what I was getting into. But over the next several years, I really dug in. I understood how the virus isolation and the bacterial work, how vaccines were made. At the same time, I also had to learn to work with salespeople. We used distributor sales reps, and they wanted me to come out and answer the hard questions to other practicing veterinarians. That meant I also traveled. So instead of being called out in the middle of the night, I was able to kind of set my schedule and say, yes, I can come see you on Tuesday of next week. So that was good. I also learned how to run clinical trials. I've read a lot of clinical trials up to that point in my career, but I never had to do one. I never had to worry about forms, and then statistics and how to present that information. So huge change in my career at that point. And that was scary. But at the same time, I also welcomed baby boy number 2. So huge change, another baby, new family. But I think it just shows that how people in our industry are resilient, and we can learn no matter where we're at in our career. But because I'm also the type of person that I don't stay in my lane very well, I was learning about lots of different things. I was promoted to the large animal business unit manager at Siva Bioimmune in 2009, which meant I now had my mentor, who was several years older than me, now reporting to me. That was hard. It was humbling. I knew he knew more than I did. I knew that this move by the management meant that I was going to climb the career ladder, and then he was kind of stagnant. That's something I really concentrated on. I tried to find information on leadership. I hope I handled it well, but it was certainly stressful. But then within this new role as the business unit manager, I learned about financials, gross margins, marketing, product placement, really learned a lot. And I garnered another mentor who was the global vice president and who sat in Lenexa at the time. And so we started having one-on-one conversations about, hey, what about this product? How would you market it here? And then one day I remember Arno came to my door and he's like, hey, what do you know about bees? In the county? I had no idea. Goosebumps. Well, I need someone to be the business unit manager in Canada and be responsible for distribution of ruminant products, small animal products, and this bee product that we actually distribute all over the world. Okay. So here I go again, just asking lots of questions, being humble. I remembered I immediately called the person who was vacating this position and I said, hey, I need to come ride with you because I need you to introduce me to these distributors and people I'll be working with, but also tell me what you've done. And that was a huge opportunity for me and to continue to grow. And it was really scary, you guys. But I never stopped learning and challenging myself and asking for help. I think that's the only reason I got through all of this is I was really good at saying, please help me. So then I had a bit of a change because I'm doing all this and I like the business part and I'm getting products and helping animals, but I didn't have my hands on that many animals. And so I kind of felt that call. And in all my spare time, I decided that I was going to go back to private practice and work as a small animal vet one Saturday a month. My husband thought I was crazy, but I kind of said, this is keeping me grounded. This is helping me remember why I started down this path. And so I did that for several years. And then I had, by the way, during all this time, because I was, doing all the business and financial part of it, I decided I need to know more. I need more education. And so I enrolled in the Purdue MS MBA Food and Agribusiness program. So over the course of 27 months, it was mainly distance learning. So we had a cohort of people who went through the whole program together. And then 5 different weeks we spent on campus. And that was really fun, really challenging. I remember taking our CFO to lunch and I'm like, please help me. I don't understand why should be a debit. In my mind, it's a positive, And so again, growing, learning, trying to think outside the box to make sure that I had the skills to do what I was being asked. And because of all of this, I had an opportunity to then further my career even more. And I accepted a global position with Siva in 2011. Within this, that meant that I left my farm in Kansas and showed up here in Bordeaux, family in tow. And I remember, at this point, my husband's a practicing attorney. He's the vice president of this firm. And I approached him and said, hey, I have this opportunity to move to France. What do you think? And his response was, that's fine if I can retire. So he retired at a very young age, and we moved to France when my son was 9 and 4. And when we got there, I left. We were there 3 days, and they sent me off on a 1-month tour to go to see a majority of our subsidiaries. And so here I am, leaving my family in a foreign country where they don't speak the language. So that was really trying. And I remember someone telling me about doing an expat. And as a family, you either become closer or you get divorced, one of the two. And so we had the conversation before we went to France that if things weren't going well between us, we were coming back home. We kept our farm in Kansas, decided to rent out the house, sold the cattle, the neighbors watching the horse because we're only supposed to be there for 3 years. But that was, I think, something that was very important. And then from seeing a lot of people go to other countries and take positions, I think it's really true. And so I hope that's something you guys will think about if you ever have such an opportunity. So about 6 months in, we're living in town. I'm not a very good city person, I'll be honest. And so we made friends with some people and had the opportunity to move out to a small town in France where we lived on the ground of a chateau, so working vineyard. And our house isn't in this picture, but it's off to the left over here. It's a 14th century barn that was converted into an apartment. So how cool is that for an ag kid from the Midwest to be living on the grounds of a chateau? And of course, being the nerd I am, I'm out there interested in what's the agriculture of growing grapes, about the fermentation process, because we ferment vaccines. So that was just a tremendous opportunity. Now, in terms of the position itself, I want to talk about some rewards and challenges, because this is a big change for me at that point. One of the biggest things was rewarding about having a global marketing positions. I really got to understand the corporate decision making and, how products are brought to market, to have, a full picture of a product portfolio. I also got to work for cultures from all over the world and go into swine operations in the Philippines, in Thailand, Russia. I mean, this was huge because, we think of how our agriculture is today in the US, and it's not the same as how they do it all over the world. So very great reward for me is being able to do that. I also got to see new programs and new products that, I was helping to build and bring that. I got to see them come to fruition and really learn from that to say, hey, this worked. This didn't work. I should have thought of this, because that learning and growth is important and through every aspect of my career since then. Now, lots of rewards, but there are also challenges. First of all, new diseases. So I had vaccines that I had to support that on diseases like classical swine fever that are eradicated from the US. So I had never seen a pig with classical swine fever until I had to support this product to prevent it. So huge learning curve there that thankfully my colleagues in the subsidiaries were very gracious in helping me learn about. I also had extensive travel, like I referred to, gone for weeks and weeks at a time. So hard on me in terms of, just being gone, being on all the time while you are traveling, but also difficult for my family and a new language, sort of. Being an international company, we spoke English at the office. So all day long, I spoke English. And then I had to figure out how to use French in my personal life. You need new tires on your car. How do you do that? Order food at a restaurant. And so one thing that I encourage you all is if you have an opportunity to live in another country, do better than I did. Really embrace the language, because that's something that you take with you as you go along. The last thing is that was a big challenge for me was a relationship with my manager. I had some interactions with this person prior to taking the position, and I didn't listen to my gut feelings on that. I thought it'll be fine. I wasn't this person's pick for the job. I was kind of put into the role, and we really struggled. I also at the time didn't have the communication skills to really address the elephant in the room. And looking back now, I wish I would have. So I started to really struggle within this position just because of that. And during this time, we got a call about 3 a.m. And you all know that That's never a good thing. And the home that we had back in Kansas on our farm had burnt to the ground. And so what do? It should have been a 3-year assignment. So we said, all right, we got to go back early. We have to rebuild. The idea of me going to France is to come back to the US to run a new division in the States. But the timing didn't work out. So thankfully, SIVA was gracious enough to find me a position as an attending veterinarian back in the States. And within this, that I now had to work with research sites for both poultry and swine. Now, up to this point, I know what a chicken is. I've never worked in poultry. I knew nothing about it. And so that was a huge challenge for me. It really taught me to rely on those who may report to me, but know more than I do, and be gracious and learn. And so in that, I've had also 3 different research sites. So it was one thing to manage a team of people, which I did. I had about 17 people reporting to me. Their experience ranged from just out of high school to a PhD DVM. But then, so you have people and lots of people management skills. And I did a lot to try to improve my skill set with leadership. I had some pretty candid conversations where I just told people, I was like, look, you need to tell me if I'm not being effective. And thankfully they were. But at the same time, I also had to manage 3 sites. So managing one site was different than managing a different site because they did different things. They had different employees. And one of those sites was brand new. So I got the shell of a pig barn, and they said, you need to be able to do research. Well, I've been in a lot of research barns, but I never paid attention to, what facilities they had, biosecurity, that kind of thing. So again, here's another opportunity for me to go find resources and go back to some of the people I've networked with and say, hey, help me. How do we do this? And then also to really work with government agencies. I had no idea what it was going to take so that we had licensing to be able to challenge an animal with a virus or bacteria. And so that was something very new. And then once we kind of settled in, another opportunity presented itself for us to develop a partnership with another research organization. So then I started working with contracts, how to hold someone's feet to the fire when they said they were going to do something and they weren't. Or, how do we pay for something when they wanted to go above and beyond what we wanted to do? So lots of challenges in this very short period of time. But at the same time, it wasn't meeting my personal goal to help animals. I didn't feel like I was really using my vet degree. I was using all of this business information, but not my vet degree. So again, here I go back to the weekends. I took a side job as a contract veterinarian doing a vaccination clinic. So I do 1 or 2 clinics a month. Again, my husband's rolling his eyes. He's like, why are you doing this? I needed it to be fulfilled for myself. And then, again, I'm looking at that I need to be closer to customers and the industry itself. So I had an opportunity to return to industry as a tech service veterinarian at Virbac Animal Health. This allowed me to get back to something I really knew. So I was again working with autogenous vaccines for swine. But at the same time, I had a new challenge. And that was I now had to work with medicated feed additives. I will be honest, I had never set foot in a feed mill. I ordered feed was delivered. I never had to think about all of these things. So that was a great opportunity for me to learn another aspect of agriculture that I frankly took for granted. At the same time, I had the opportunity to work with some cattle vaccines and really step outside my box. I was, raising my hand whenever somebody said, who wants to work with the back end business system to make sure our people in the field can get the information quickly? Me. I did. I helped create an application that was both on mobile and on your computer. I never thought I'd do that as a veterinarian, but I stepped on my comfort zone and was willing to learn. And I think that was really good. And I hope you guys do that as well. So going along, I really settled in. I love my people I work with. I love the products. Could see myself retiring here. And then I got another call from a recruiter. And that's one of the things, always talk to your recruiters. Hear what they have to say. Because had I not, I wouldn't be where I am today. So this recruiter called and she said, hey, Jesse, I've got the perfect spot for you. There's a company who wants to enter the US. I'm like, okay, who is it? Virbac. Oh, great. So they have iProheart and I don't work with small animals. What are you talking about? Well, Virbac is entering the US in cattle and swine. And so I started with them in April of this year. We still don't have any products to sell, but I've been extremely busy. So everything I've done up to this point has brought me to what I'm able to do today. So I'm doing things I never dreamed I would do. Obviously, I'm doing the marketing to creating brochures, developing a web page, writing web content, working with distributors so that they'll distribute our products. We're hiring salespeople. And so all of these things that had I not stepped outside of my comfort zone and been willing to try and make transitions on, never would have allowed me to do what I am today, which I am having a ball doing. So we'll have liftoff here in a few weeks, but I hope this kind of shows you where I've been from up to this point in my career. So what have I learned from all this? What kind of advice do I think could be helpful to other people? The first thing, family comes first, always. Make sure you're at those ball games, the dance recitals, grandparents' birthdays, because the name on your shirt will change, but your family's always there for you. Take time to have fun. Take time for your friends. Make sure you have a hobby. I was terrible at this whenever I was younger. All I did was work and, yeah, great. How are you? But I never took time to have fun. So my life is much better once I've made this decision. So I hope all of you do that. Start it young and continue it through. Also, turn off your email notification on your phone. You don't need that dinging. You don't need the flashing. And then in addition to that, don't check it after 5 o'clock or on the weekends. Now, if you're on call, that's obviously different. But if you're not, have that separation. Someone will pick up the phone and call you. They will send you a text if they need you. And then communicate that. Say, hey, I don't check my email. And it's really impressive that it's okay. But say, if you need me, you call me or text me and I will respond. But try to have a good balance. Be humble yet confident. So it's okay to say you don't know. Please, please, please take responsibility when you mess up. But yet be confident. Know that you can, and that will get you really far in life. Step outside of your box. I've said this many times. Just because you have a title and this is your job doesn't mean that you can't be involved in something completely irrelevant to what you should be doing, because you never know where that will get you. Be prepared. So one of the things that I like to do in my presentations is, I have my presentation ready, but I also have this huge appendix. So if someone asks me, well, can you tell me more about that? Absolutely. Let me scroll down to the slides that I've hidden and be able to have that information for you. So always be prepared. As you enter a new job, research that as much as you can. Talk to people who have worked for that company before. Really find out what the culture is like. And do it in a private setting so that they're not, forced to say, yes, it's great, when maybe it's not. Live on less than you make. Remember my first job that the day I quit and I thought I was given a month's notice, I got walked out before. If you don't have a good emergency funds, that puts a huge strain on your life. So if you can, make that a goal. Live on less than you make. Never stop learning. So whether it's reading a book, taking extra courses, going to continuing education, it's important to stay relevant in what you're doing, but also challenge yourself. So right now I'm going back and reading a Stephen Covey book on the most effective habits. And I read it years ago, but that has different meaning to me today than it did when I read it the first time. And finally, always listen to new opportunities, even if you're happy where you are. It's okay to say no, but you never know what's right around the corner. So I'll leave you with this. It's a quote by Billie Jean King. And she said, champions and just and pressure is a privilege. And I think that's really true.
And it's a wrap. We hope that you like this replay. You can listen to this and more webinars on our YouTube channel, Animal Science Office Hours. Make sure to follow us on our social media so you can replay previous episodes and more. Again, we want to thank our sponsors NutriQuest, IFF, and Continental Research, our founder Dr. Casey Bradley, and you, the amazing audience who has followed us from the very beginning. Remember, life is short. Drink your coffee in the barn. See you next time.